are all around us. If you can read it, it's in a font. And if you want to go looking for hundreds of different fonts, the best place, of course, would be a bookstore. And one of the best bookstores in which to do this kind of activity is at Barnes & Noble. There are games in books and magazines and just hundreds upon probably thousands of different fonts. Now, while we're here, I'll be using the complete typographer to reference some of the fonts that you find. So, let's go. Everybody knows Myriad Pro. You would know it by the For Dummies books. It's their title font. Myriad Pro is a sans serif. That means that it doesn't have those little feet on the ends of letters. The font used for the Barnes & Noble paperback classics is a beautiful serif font. It has high contrast in its letters, a lot of thick and thin, so it's definitely a modern or Didoni serif, but it's not Dido or Bedoni. It looks just like them. If you just look at the title at a glance, it looks like Dido or Bedoni, but it's not. Actually, it's New Caledonia. There are some letters that do not match up with Dido or Bedoni, but everything fits perfectly into New Caledonia, and it's a gorgeous font. Alright, so let's talk about one of the oldest and most classic fonts out there, Trajan. Trajan is a glyphic serif font, and it is very classy. You can always identify Trajan by its capital N. Well, Trajan is all capitals, but the N does not have a serif on the top left corner. That's how you identify it. And boy, everybody uses Trajan. It's as old as Trajan's column. That's where it comes from. In the 2nd century AD, and it is just very classy. Look, Trajan. And Trajan again. Dear me. So much Trajan. Papyrus is really not a terrible font. Not if you use it properly. A lot of people don't like it. And it is overused. I mean, when you use it for a Christmas banner, yeah. But it does have its uses, as in the case of the Nefertiti book, which is about an Egyptian queen. Papyrus is a very Egyptian-looking font. That's the point of it. It's an ancient-looking glyphic font. Lithos is a classy sans serif. Like Papyrus, it's meant to be an ancient-looking font. And unfortunately, I could only find one example of it. Snell Roundhand, despite its rather odd name, is a gorgeous script font. Script fonts are very special. Script, italic, and chancery. They have the feel of the human hand. They're very calligraphic. The complete typographer says that while the historical evolution of type shows a move away from calligraphic forms towards letters specifically informed by the technologies of the printed letter, A concurrent tradition has maintained the influence of the written hand through the design of script, italic, and chancery typefaces. These range from highly formal and disciplined letter forms, based in many cases upon the historical example of noted writing masters, to animated gestural faces from the 20th century, encompassing a range of highly personal approaches to the arts of pen and brush lettering. Whatever that means. Edwardian script ITC is one of my favorite script fonts. It's just so stylish and thin and just gorgeous. And it's readily available in Microsoft Word. New Johnson is another lovely classic font. It's a humanist sans serif. If you recognize it, it's because it's the font used for the London Underground. It was designed by Edward Johnson during World War I, and he was actually a calligrapher, which is why it is such a gorgeous sans serif. There is contrast to it. There's the feel of the human hand. Castellar is a very classy serif font. It is known as a decorated or ornamental font because it has two lines in each letter, with the space between them, the thin line and the thick line, and it's really very pretty, very classy. And like Trajan, it has no lowercase letters. It's all capitals. Black letter is actually a category of type, and it is very, very old. And out of all the fonts that you've seen thus far, it's the one that had nothing to do with Roman lettering, like Trajan. Black letter is German. Black letter, in fact, was used by Germans in printing until World War II. And it has a lot of bold lines, very classy, and just kind of what you would probably think of if you're thinking of medieval lettering, like, say, the Book of Kells. So here we go, glyphic. Glyphic is a fantastic category of type. Trajan belongs to the glyphic category. It's all about the feel and look of carved letters, inscribed letters. Glyphic fonts tend to be very beautiful, and they're used a lot in fantasy typography, like the title font for Lord of the Rings. That's a glyphic font. It's serif, but it's definitely glyphic. It has a very old, antiqued feel to it. there's Trajan again. Well, once again, fonts are all around us. Fonts tend to inform us about the content of a book, the title font does. And when we use fonts ourselves, we really need to be thinking about why we're using the fonts that we do, because all fonts send a message. And there is a time to use, say, Comic Sans, it really is. And there's a time to get rid of Comic Sans. There is a time to gather up Trajan, and there's a time to cast Trajan away. There's a time to use Papyrus, and there's a time to kill those who use Papyrus. So, I hope you've enjoyed this little safari with me, and thanks for watching.